Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Ever wonder what will happen to your plans for a worry-free retirement when something happens to your advisor? Well, let's find out.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, nationally recognized retirement specialist and six-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
As I approach my 40th year in this business, I'm reminded of the old saying, you're not getting any younger. And it's not just a little man in a sweater vest getting a few more gray hairs. According to financial statistics, the average age of today's financial advisor is 55, with a ton of these advisors expected to retire in the next 10 years, which might explain why I'm seeing more and more prospective clients who either no longer have a current advisor or are not confident that their advisor will be there with them for the long haul. Whether their current advisor has retired, become disabled, changed firms, sold their business, or even passed away, savers are concerned, and rightfully so, that the advisor they now rely on will one day no longer be there for them in the future. Which is why today I'm going to share with you how we at Tony Walker Financial have properly prepared for the inevitable when, not if, when Tony Walker is no longer here to assist our clients in retirement. So, let's get started. Well, welcome folks to the Worry-Free Retirement, and yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, long-term retirement planning specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker. And before we share with you the plans to keep Tony Walker Financial going long after Tony Walker can no longer go, let me introduce two young lads in the Worry-Free production studios who are always on the go here each week, helping to produce this show. America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orender, and Louisville, Kentucky's most laid-back graphics artist, Mr. Derek Hudson. Okay, imagine you are thinking of retiring, or maybe you've been retired for years, and you realize that you have no clue what this thing called retirement is going to look like, where to invest your life savings, and more importantly, who to trust with it. Worried that you'll make a mistake with your money, you begin the difficult task of trying to find an advisor who you feel is equipped to help you not just when you retire, but an advisor who you hope will be there to advise you all the way through retirement, which for some savers, that could last as long as 30 to 40 years. So who are you going to select? A stranger who just invited you to a free dinner seminar? Maybe the advisor hosting his wares at the local university? How about this? The guy or gal you listen to on the radio, or maybe even the option to respond to a blind internet ad for financial advice. Seeing as though many advisors are at an age where retirement and death could be in their plans for the future, does it not make sense to be certain that the advisor in whom you are trusting to guide you in retirement will actually be there for you and your family until the day you die? And assuming you are the one who handles the finances and investments, wouldn't it be reassuring to know that your spouse or partner will have that same advisor on board to guide them in retirement should something happen to you? To me, of all the questions a saver should be asking an advisor is not necessarily how much the advisor can earn them on their investments. No, the key question to ask the advisor in dealing with retirement is this: what happens to me and my money when something happens to you? Well, stay tuned, folks, because today I'm going to share with you how serious this issue of something happening to your advisor really is, and how we at Tony Walker Financial have plans in place to take care of our clients and their money long after Tony Walker is no longer here to do so. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Did you realize that if you have more than $250,000 in retirement assets, the government could tax as much as 40% of it when you go to take it out? And with current tax rates set to expire in 2025, the taxes you will owe on your 401k could climb even higher. Don't wait until 2025 to see how much Uncle Sam will take of your money. Get a game plan by logging on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com. With the average age of today's financial advisor at around 55, is it any wonder that nearly 40% of all financial advisors in this business will retire in the next 10 years? This should concern savers who themselves are retired or are thinking of retiring soon. And it's not just the prospect of your advisor retiring and leaving you and your spouse to go it alone. It's also the very real possibility of your advisors becoming ill, passing away, changing firms, selling their business, or worse yet, as my grandmother used to say, getting too big for their britches.
What?
What is it, Derek?
Did you just say too big for their britches?
Well, too big for your britches is actually a very common term. In fact, take a look at this. Apparently first coined in 1835 by Davy Crockett, who said of Andrew Jackson the following: "I myself was one of the first to fire a gun under Andrew Jackson. I helped to give him all his glory. But I liked him well once, but when a man gets too big for his britches, I say goodbye."
Well, that explains why my pants don't fit anymore.
One proposed solution to the aging populations of financial advisors and what happens to the industry when many of these advisors leave the business for whatever reason is to train college kids to take over for them, which, as someone who has personally been in this business for nearly 40 years and overseen more than 5,000 written game plans, the thought of a bunch of college kids trained by others who may not know much about retirement either, that's a little scary and what I would call not being worry-free. Yet, I do agree that we need younger people in this field. It's just we need to be sure that the younger advisors have the proper oversight and training from others who are experienced in retirement planning, which I personally have taken my experience to do just that. Train younger advisors, such as my favorite son-in-law and favorite nephew, in our 5-step process called the WorryFree Retirement. In fact, I thought it might be worthwhile to hear from one of those younger fiduciaries in our offices, Trey Juergens, to share with us the frequent number of prospective clients he is now meeting after those savers have met with me and decide to do business with us, and the reason many of these savers are moving their money to Tony Walker Financial.
Yeah, clients quite often when they decide to join Tony Walker Financial will come down the hall to my office to get started with the onboarding process. That's the process where we start getting all the current accounts moved over to our firm. Just here in the last week, we've had 2 scenarios where clients have moved from a previous advisor. In one situation, that advisor retired. Another situation, that advisor actually passed away. So those clients were kind of left to go it alone in the financial world. Thankfully, they found a firm like Tony Walker Financial.
Oh, speaking of well-trained staff who can service what the advisor sells and the idea of making sure there are others at Tony Walker Financial who can take care of our clients long after I'm dead and gone. Years ago, when I first began to be seen regularly on TV, an older gentleman who apparently watched me regularly on TV and thought I hung the moon met with me, and upon seeing our process, decided to do business with Tony Walker Financial. After a few years of working with him and the man getting acclimated to our wonderful staff of service experts, he walked up to me at one of our client appreciation events, grabbed me tightly around the arm, looked me dead in the eye, and said the following:
"You don't do much, do you, fella?"
Folks, Tony Walker Financial is not about Tony Walker, but about the wonderful process we have created for savers and all the staff who are there to serve our clients, not just when they move their money over, but all the way until the day they die. This process is not about me, it's about you. And yes, I am proud of the fact that we have assembled a well-trained staff who is there for our clients and will be there for the long haul. In fact, to attest to this fact of how our staff treats others and their level of expertise, I invite you to log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and look at all the client reviews on our homepage. Notice the clients are talking more about the staff and less about me, and that's a good thing. So now that we have exposed the fact that most advisors do not have a business continuation plan in place, nor a process that other advisors and staff in their firm can follow along after the advisor is gone, how do we at Tony Walker Financial provide the confidence that we will be there, just not when we roll the money over to our firm, but also all the way through retirement? Well, when we return, I'm going to show you our unique 5-step process and where it begins and ends, and that's with you. I'm Tony Walker. I'll be right back. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today. Our Live Well, Die Broke moment comes to us from James in Louisville, a client of ours who, after watching one of our YouTube videos, had this to say. Thanks for another great video, Tony. I have a retirement annuity from the city of San Diego, California, and my Army retirement annuity. Both are 50% joint and survivorship. This, in addition to my VA tax-free disability money, is the perfect recipe for living the good life in the great state of Kentucky. I want to let you in on a little secret. My mailbox money goes a lot farther in Kentucky, known as God's country, compared to California, known as Taxifornia. I love that. He goes on to say, proud owner of 2 Tony Walker annuities that we will not touch for another 5 years. So folks, to watch videos such as the one James is referring to, let me invite you to go to our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com, and just type in Tony Walker Financial for all kinds of videos on topics regarding retirement. Okay, let's get to the Tony in the trenches. This one from Dave in Louisville, who asked the following. Tony, I have worked with the same advisor for about 10 years, and now that I'm retired, I keep asking for some sort of written game plan, and his answer is always the same. You'll be okay. Quit worrying about it. Well, Tony, I am worried about it and wonder why he will not provide me something in writing. Well, basically, here's the facts. In my estimation, when most people come to me for a second opinion, the majority of these folks, when I say, can I see your written game plan, don't have one. So the question is, why is this? With thousands and thousands of advisors out there advising people on a whole host of topics and products, why can they not provide a financial written game plan for retirement? Something like this. Here's why I think that is. They don't have one. And many of the advisors out there, unfortunately, stockbrokers, money managers, annuity peddlers, they're not trained in the art of retirement planning, so they don't understand the importance of a game plan like this. Folks, there is no way you're going to meet the changes that are going to come your way in retirement. There's no way you can estimate taxes that will come up as you make distributions, how to understand fees and economic costs associated with those, when to take Social Security, what to do when one spouse dies, without some sort of written game plan, which is why we at Tony Walker created this. Now, not only do our clients get this written game plan, they get something we call the worry-free retirement process. So I want to take some time here and really explain the options that we have within this process and why we continually wish to improve on this process. You know what I've learned over the years is the beauty of having a process is over time, as people get more and more experienced in working with other people, such as retirement planning, as we've done for over 20 years, we get better and better at this because the process can be improved. So let me explain our 5 steps and who is involved at Tony Walker Financial in this process. Step number 1 is something we call the vision exercise. Now, we use a product. It's a proprietary product called the Worry Meter. What we're trying to do before we ever meet with somebody is try to determine what are their 3 or 4 biggest worries, whether it's running out of money, when to take Social Security, how to avoid stock market risk, how to get more mailbox money, whatever it is, we're going to meet, and usually that is me. It depends on the situation, but almost everybody that calls our office for a second opinion gets to meet with me in person. Now again, our topic is what happens if something happens to your advisor? What happens if something happens to Tony? This is really important. You're going to see this. So we have 3 other salaried fiduciaries that are trained in what I call the vision exercise. So as long as I'm available to do it, more than likely I'm doing most of these, I'm going to do the vision exercise, but they are highly trained, so if something happens to me, step 1 of our process continues on. So what is step 2? Step 2 is where we assess your situation. So you're bringing in all of your documents. I'm looking at tax returns, investment statements, annuity contracts, Social Security statements, other issues that come up. There's a ton of issues that can come up when we're doing this vision exercise, and that's where we're going to provide this free assessment. That's the game plan. Well, you say, well, who does the assessment? Yours truly. I use my nearly 40 years of experience to look at all of the plans we do, and I make sure those plans are done the way I want them to be done based on my experience that I've learned from meeting with the people. Or if a salaried fiduciary has met with that person, I'm going to look at that game plan and I'm going to make the assessment. Really important. So at that meeting, after we do the assessment, this is called the commitment phase, okay? We also kind of a subset there. We call it onboarding, and I'll explain why onboarding. So what happens during the commitment phase? Well, generally, this is the first appointment. This is the second appointment. Because our game plans are so extensive, and most people have never seen anything like this, the first thing out of their mouth is, I don't understand anything like this, I got to take this and study it. We say, absolutely. We want them to make sure they understand the products and the process before they commit to rolling over their money to Tony Walker Financial. But when they do, we have that process in place too. It's called the onboarding process. We have 3 different ways of onboarding, depending on whether they are investments. There's an onboarding process for that. If it's related to annuities, we have a separate onboarding process for that. And if you're looking at long-term care, Medicare supplements, life insurance that we offer through Tony Walker Financial, again, different people and a different process for that. But it all is tied, here's the point, to the original game plan. Everybody now in the organization is focused and following the game plan, all right? It's really important, and that's where that game plan comes into place. What's the 4th step of our process? Okay, that's called the implementation. Now, this is where everything happens. This is where we personally do everything. We move all the money over. We make the 401k rollover calls. We set up all the accounts. We set up all the distributions. We link everything back to your checking account so we can send you that mailbox money. We determine whether you should do Roth conversions, whether you should do QCDs. All these things are determined in our office, and we're going to implement all of those details for you. How do we know to do that? Again, because we have the game plan. I hope you understand you have to have a game plan for the process to follow. The products are just part of this, folks. Many of you are rushing out. You're just dumping all this money into these products. You get enamored with bonuses or people telling you they can make you 10 or 12%, all these past returns that mean nothing. Again, folks, call that the commodity casualty trap. And with the commodity casualty trap, if you're leading with products and not a process, it's going to come back to bite you at some point. You got to have the process, the game plan in place. The products go within the process. That's why we are so unusual at Tony Walker Financial in the way we work. And then finally, we have really worked on perfecting this. Then the 5th step is we're going to monitor your progress, okay? So as you go throughout the years, there's things that's going to change. There's times you may have needed more money. There's maybe extra money we have to work with. You receive an inheritance, whatever, changes in your family. This comes up a lot as people move through retirement. But the bottom line is this game plan, as we go through the process and you age and go through what I call the second half of life, you're really going to want that game plan. Otherwise, how are you going to know what you've even done and how well you've done compared to the past years? There's no way you're going to know that without that game plan. And then guess what? When something changes, when you need a purchase, when you decide to travel, you want to do something with the kids, things change. We start this process all over again. In most cases, I know yesterday I had 8 appointments yesterday just with current clients who had changes coming up and they wanted to come in and talk with me. Well, I'm not going to pass them off to somebody else if they want to talk to me. I am totally accessible here at Tony Walker Financial, which is why I have such a large staff, folks. Our arrangement is totally unique to the industry. We have more and more service professionals and salaried fiduciaries. Why? So that it can free up my time to see more and more clients and prospective clients. So maybe that's you right now. You're sitting there thinking, I don't have anything like this. I sure don't even have an advisor that has a game plan in place, plus has a business continuation plan in place so that when and if something happens to my advisor, everything keeps running smoothly. Well, we do this at Tony Walker Financial, and we're very good at it. To talk to me at no obligation and find out more about our services, we call this the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call. To take advantage of that, just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, TonyWalkerFinancial.com, or you can simply call the number on your screen and we'll be happy to arrange that for you. Well, we've been talking a lot about Tony Walker Financial, and if we're not careful here, it might appear that I'm actually getting close to getting a little too big for my britches. Well, how does the Bible and God's Word keep that from happening for you and me? Good stuff coming your way. Let me grab a cup of coffee. I'll be right back. You've worked hard your entire life. Now, let us work hard for you. My name is Tony Walker, and if you're looking for a game plan that can provide you peace of mind, look no further. Whether it's rolling over your 401k plan, reducing risk, or just setting up a plan that includes mailbox money for life, we're here to help. To speak with me at no cost or obligation, just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and click on that Let's Get Started button or call the number on your screen. We look forward to talking with you soon. Recently, I was approached by a married couple unhappy with the service they were receiving from their current advisor, who they began working with some 15 years ago. According to this couple, the first few years with the advisor went great. But as the advisor's firm grew, their advisor disappeared, as they were then passed off to other younger advisors in the firm who appeared to not know what they were doing. When I asked why this happened, the husband quickly quipped, "It was obvious he had bigger fish to fry." I then quipped back something my grandmother Hazel used to say, "Oh, I get it. He got too big for his britches." This temptation for an advisor or any red-blooded American who finds themselves in the throes of sudden success and getting too big for their britches can happen to the best of us. I should know because it almost happened to me. Let me explain. Back in 1984, I entered the financial world knowing nothing about this business. And up until around 2002, I struggled mightily to make any money at it. In fact, truth be known, had it not been for my wife Susan working nights and weekends as a nurse to keep our family afloat, I would have been forced to leave this business and go do something else. But then, in 2002, as I watched the stock market crash along with my clients' money, I changed directions in my practice and began helping savers by creating a new process I called the WorryFree Retirement, one that focused more on safety of principle and not running out of money. This unique 5-step process of helping savers worry less about money utilized a new financial tool created by insurance companies called a fixed indexed annuity, a product which contained zero risk and had the ability in later years to provide my clients something I referred to as mailbox money. With this newfound process and product in hand, as evidence of my success, I was recognized by one of the insurance companies I sold annuities through as their #1 agent in the country, not 1, but 2 years in a row. A company at that time that had over 22,000 agents. Armed with all these sales awards, I was repeatedly asked to address their top agents about our process. And then from 2007 to 2013, I gained notoriety as the weekly retirement specialist on a major network in Louisville, Kentucky. In 2013, I was nominated by a national publication for Advisor of the Year. In 2017, I was approached by a large marketing firm in our field so that I might train them in our process, and yes, all the while, my practice was growing by leaps and bounds. Yet, with all this success, I noticed that the humility I once felt years ago relying on Susan to keep us afloat was turning more and more toward a dangerous level of pride. I summarized that if I wasn't careful, I too could get too big for my britches. Well, thankfully, God's grace came to my rescue. You see, assuming you're like me and rely on God's Word for guidance, you will find that all you need to keep you humble and avoid being prideful is right there in the pages of Scripture. Look long enough into God's Word and you'll see that pride is something that not only God hates, but also, if not kept in check, can lead to man's ruin. For certain, the lesson to remember when it comes to God's thoughts on pride is this: He opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble. What I've discovered is that without a constant diet of daily humility, pride can ultimately rear its ugly head at a moment's notice. In other words, you want to be exalted. Well, to be exalted by God, you first must humble yourself before Him. The late, great Charles Spurgeon characterizes this dastardly condition of exalting ourselves and getting a little too big for one's britches this way: "Oh, strange infatuation that you who have borrowed everything should think of exalting yourself." But Tony, you ask, are you saying we shouldn't be proud of our efforts at working hard, at making money, and saving money for the future? Folks, in my humble opinion, there is nothing wrong with being proud of success and accomplishments. The danger arises when we forget who is ultimately responsible for them, and that's God. So how do we remain humble during the temptation to be prideful about our success? Well, that's simple. Just run away from the author and creator of pride, that's the devil himself, and turn and flee into the arms of a gracious God who loves humble people. You do that, my friend, and I assure you that the worries of the world will begin to fade away. And that's some good news you and I can take to the bank. Well, how about you right now? Are you proud of what you have worked so hard to save, but worried that the one in whom you have trusted with it may not be around as long as you are? Or maybe at this stage of your life, you don't even have a trusted advisor in your corner, someone you can meet with in person and whose firm will be there for the long haul, regardless of whether the advisor remains in the business or not. Well, I've got good news, because at Tony Walker Financial, we have taken great strides to be sure that our clients not only have a written game plan in place to follow through retirement, but a trained staff that will be there to see you through the many changes that will surely come your way. So what are you waiting for? If you have at least $250,000 saved for retirement and looking for ways to reduce taxes and fees on this money, as well as invest in things that will help you sleep at night, something we call then we need to talk. And we made this real easy. It's called the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call, and here's how easy it is to see if we can be of help to you. Just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and you're going to click on that little red button. Once you click on that button, our office will contact you to arrange this 10-minute phone call with myself and you. After we have this phone call, if it merits, we will meet in person at either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. Internet not your thing? Just pick up the phone and call the toll-free number on your screen, and we will arrange that phone call right away. Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's program. We've certainly enjoyed being with you, but you remember, between now and next week, if all else fails, you be worry-free and make it a good one.